win a game that ended in favor of Arsenal. I will be letting you know how that game ended and who, of course, scored the goals and how many goals, of course, were being scored yesterday. And I want to show you last night was actually a night that was also really for men who had to go out there and have fun. I want to show you it was something of that caliber. But all in all, we are saying you're most welcome aboard. And this is where we are going to be discussing a lot of the issues that continue to happen in the country. Because if you look at what's happening in the country, and then you realize that a lot more is happening, but we may not be in position to understand what exactly could be happening out there. But I want to assure you that, of course, very many issues already happening out there. But the question is, how are you prepared for all this? Now that the year is coming to an end, because if you look at October, this is when we are going to be having the Independence Week. And it's also within the same month that we are going to be celebrating the World Teachers' Day, which will be going on 5th, which is on Saturday. But I want to assure you it is actually one of those days that we must always honor, we must cherish. And independence is actually also within the same month. It means that we have two very important days that to be celebrated within this month in here. And it's the last month for the learners also really and to teachers to also really prepare their candidates for the final examinations. Not only for the candidates, what about the continuing classes? It's a promotional term whereby you have to work extra harder. And we were able to also see yesterday Arua City releasing the mock results. That is for the primary living examinations for the P7 candidates. But over 46, about 46 point something also failed the examinations. And that means we are seeing majority passing, but there's still a group that didn't make it in there. And this result is an indication that we are actually on the right track. Are we moving towards changing the performance of the learners in this region? Are we working towards that? As parents, are you supporting your learners enough? Is the question you should be asking yourself, because if you look at the number of candidates that sat for these examinations, you realize that over 7,000 sat for these examinations. And you realize that also really these are candidates who may have dropped in there, because we also had issues and scenarios where some of the learners were being told to us that have dropped out of the school. But as parents, why must you allow your children also not to continue with school? Because education today, really without education, I believe, life can mean to be so difficult for you. And that is why we must prepare our learners for these also really examinations to make sure that at least they are ready for these examinations. Because if at all a learner fails in P7, in most cases, they feel they need to give up. They feel that they are not also anybody in there, because at the end of the day, they are going to be mocked, they are going to be mimicked, which may not be right. So I think it is right for us parents to make sure that within the remaining days, we make our children pass. Because if you look at over the 7,441 candidates that sat for what we call West Nile Primary School Examination Teachers Association, which is already one of the examination sets that these learners participated in, because these learners sat for 2 sets. And if you look at the one for West Nile Primary Schools Head Teachers Association, you realize that over 7,441 candidates sat for these examinations. Out of the 7,441, 550 learners were in Division 1, and out of the 550, of course, we had 336 boys and 214 females. That is in first grade also when it comes to the examination. Meanwhile, in second Division 2, we had 2,170 learners, and out of the 2,170 learners, 1,203 we are boys, as 616 we are females in Division 2. It means that the performance between the girls and the boys still has huge difference. How can we make sure that the learners, more so the girl child, competes with the boy child to make sure that there's equity? And then there's some comparison, because if you look at the distance from 2,000 to also 616, then you realize that also there is a huge gap in there when it comes to these examinations. And meanwhile, Division 3, we had also 2,291 learners, and out of this, 1,010 were boys, as also 1,281 were females. Meanwhile, in Division U, these are the ones who are usually known as the ungraded, who have failed. We had 979 learners, and out of these, 3,089 were girls, as 590 were boys. That means the number of learners who have failed completely are mostly boys. It means that boys are not concentrating, because if you look at what's happening usually when also these examinations are going on, in most cases the boy child is usually not considered, because you realize that the boy child sometimes drops out of school because they have to go and hustle to look for things here and there. Then they forget about school. Meanwhile, the girls are busy in class. They understand what exactly is happening and why they must continue engaging in class. It means, as parents, you have been blamed for this poor performance. Because some of the parents, mostly in some of the schools, because if you look at the rural city, you realize that the two divisions solely are witnessing a lot of challenges when it comes to parents' attitude. You move to schools in Ivy division, some parents do not want to still send their children to school. People still have the mentality that the girl child is a source of meat. So that mentality, that mindset is what we need to also make sure that we work towards and change. Because once we do not change it, then definitely we're going to be still seeing such performances arising. And what exactly will be coming at the final examinations is we are still going to be looking for our schools from the bottom. Because I believe mocks are usually a preamble to the national examinations, to the final examinations, and usually they help test and also really test the ability of the learners and the schools when it comes to syllabus coverage, which is really indeed another challenge which was also really raised yesterday, that some of the schools do not extensively cover the syllabus. So it makes it hard for the learners at the end of the day to also make sure they answer some of the questions, because they do not know certain moments when these examinations maybe were taught, when they also in class, when these things were really passed on by the teacher, because the teachers have never taught them. So it makes it hardly difficult for them to also really make sure that they tackle and also answer some of the questions. So I think all in all, the schools must play their roles. It goes back to their teachers to make sure that their learners are first of all equipped with the necessary equipment, first of all, like the textbooks, the chalks and everything, to make sure the teachers have no excuse for not attending classes. So it is all in all in the hands of the teachers. Within this remaining months, I believe there's still a lot more that can be changed. The 2,000 plus learners who are in Division 2 can still be changed in Division 1. There's a slight improvement according to officials, and I was able to solely see the Principal Education Officer, that's Raymond Ombere, acknowledging and appreciating the teachers that at least there is an improvement. So I think the improvements shouldn't only remain in mocks. We want to see these improvements actualize at the final examinations. And then there was also an observation of private schools outshining government schools. If you look at top 10 schools, you realize that most of them are actually privately owned facilities. What happened to the teachers who are being paid by government? Could it be that some of the teachers who are being paid by the government after getting included on the government list, they forget about their duties? Yes, that could be a challenge, because most of the times you hear stories of, I want to be on government. That's why whenever jobs are being announced, private school teachers are always in numbers, planning, also struggling to also be included. That's also on the list also of government-aided teachers in there. And that is one thing we did see yesterday. And I want to assure you that the results are now being released. It is upon you as the parents to check out how your learner performed. If at all they have not also already made it, you have to guide them within these remaining days to make sure that at least they are also already in the know of what's happening in there. And you will realize that subjects like English, science were the best performed, as social studies and mathematics were the worst performed also in these examinations. That's also for the West Nile Primary Schools Head Teacher Association, which is already one of the sets that the learners participated in. And this is where you will realize that also already most of the learners actually not pass mathematics in there. It means mathematics still remains a great challenge. And some of the best schools, if you realize the top 10 schools and the top 10 pupils, we had also pupils like Opinie Emanuela from Sir Andrew Primary School, who actually performed very well in these examinations, and also scored aggregate 5 when it comes to West Nile Primary Schools Education. We had also learners like Aita Esther Rebecca. So I think the name Aita is not by mistake. The names Aita must be very much brilliant in there, and this is also where we have our own Aita at West Nile TV, who is the real talk host. So I think all in all, these are brilliant people in there, and people in the names of Aita Esther Rebecca also as well scored aggregate 5. That is also from Ushindi Primary School. Meanwhile, from Orawa Primary, which is a government-aided primary school, we had Anviko Esther Rebecca, who surprised many by also scoring aggregate 5, We are following up on this girl keenly, and we hope at the end of the day, she will be the one to make us very much proud in there. And we also have Zoe Flavor Efia Nundo from also the Ushindi Primary School, and we also had Sheila LC Ramadan, that's from Espesak, and we had learners like Ihanga Patricia from Cornerstone, Zahara Stefani from also Montessori Primary School, as well as Opileni Ostina Maria from St. Kizito Primary School. Meanwhile, also we had Nimaro Happy from Bright Horizon, as well as Yuk Mary Goretti from Satellite Ombatsi Primary School in there. These are learners who also made us very much proud in these examinations by scoring aggregate 5, 6, and 7. These are the top 10 learners, and we are following up on them. We hope at the end of the day they will be raising and changing the 5s to 4s, and the 7s should come to 5s and 6, and that would also really make us proud. The last time Arua received a 4, I think has also lasted some time, and I remember that was only some time back when the flag was very much high. So we are keenly following up on and to see if at all Arua this time round will be able to sort of record another aggregate 4 when it comes to the primary living examinations of this year of 2024. Come 2025, early when the results will be released, we shall be still coming back to announce maybe how the results are also already being out and how Arua City has performed, and of course the best school that has also already performed in there, and that is where we would be also really proud as people of this sub-region. And this is also where we want to also really see our learners performing very well, and the best school overall was Oasis Primary School Ability Campus. Meanwhile, St. Kizito Orphanage comes in second place, Feminine Support Center, which is already some school, comes also in position number 3. Ombat Satellite is in position 4th, as Trust Education Service is in the 5th place, and S Generation is in the 7th place. Mvara Junior, Mvara Primary is in the 6th place, as well as Ediofe Boys is in the 8th place. Ediofe Girls is in the 9th place. Michu Primary School is in 10th place. That is how the top 10 is standing, and maybe somebody will be interested in wanting to know the last school also in these examinations, because we also have to appreciate them and clap for them. The last schools, we have Ania on the bottom. Ochiba Islamic is is also in the bottom in there. Abiria Primary is also really following up on that log in there, as Odravo Corp is following in there amongst the poor performances. Odruva is also really not excluded out of the list, as well as Alivu Primary School. These are schools within Ivory Division which are still timing behind in there. But we hope at the end of the day, the head teachers should be able to sort of go back and make changes on these results, because it's quite possible. It's not magic. It only goes back to the head teachers' attitudes to make sure that these learners also really change their attitudes by, first of all, improving on the syllabus coverage and giving them assessments also really in these remaining days in there. Because if you look at the remaining days, we are only counting October, because by 4th, the learners will be having the briefing of the examinations, and then by 6th, they will be sitting for these examinations. So it means we shall be seeing our learners returning back to examinations when they are raw. So all in all, we can still change the results within these remaining days, and to make sure that our learners also really have performance also really changed in there, and that will make us proud as citizens and as people of West Nile sub-region at large, because Arua City is actually the capital city of West Nile sub-region, and you cannot separate Arua City from West Nile sub-region, and that's where we are saying the head must also lead by example. We don't want to see districts like Maracha, districts like Obongi, districts like Zombo, districts like Pakwach, districts like Nebi, districts like Madiokolo, districts like also Ajumani, Moyo, and many other districts within West Nile sub-region, because if you look at West Nile sub-region, there are 13 local governments, not forgetting the mother district of Arua. We want to see how these regions will be able to compete nationally, and that would make the region very much proud, and that would also really signal that indeed West Nile is still a great region. Because at one time, I want to assure you, people used to come and study in these schools within West Nile sub-region, and today some of the traditional schools have flopped. But you realize that those days, people used to bring their children to come and study here. Just the same way today we are taking out children away from the region to also other areas in there, because if you look at when the term is beginning, if you move to the bus parks, you will realize that most of the learners are moving away. They are being ferried by the parents to go and study elsewhere. It means that the trust also for the schools has drastically reduced. So it means we have to do something, and it is only us that can change the mindset and also make sure that our learners actually study within the sub-region in there, and that is where we are going to be leaving that discussion aside and look at some of the stories happening elsewhere. As we're getting on to move on with the story, we're already counting down a few minutes. That's sort of to wind up with this hour of discussion that will be ushering us straight into another hour in there, but we're saying we are clearly following up on to see how the results also will be moving on in there, and that's where we're going to be leaving the discussion aside. But I want to assure you, the Speaker of Parliament, that's right, Honorable Anita Mong, together with her deputy, that is Thomas Tayebwa, have been accused of bias as the bill to elect the leader of opposition in Parliament is also tabled in there. And remember, that bill was actually proposed and also already mentioned during the Gulu sitting in there, and now a section of legislators also have accused the Speaker of Parliament, Right Honorable Anita Mong, and her deputy Thomas Tayebwa of being biased, and that's only when they did also handle the matter also containing the election of the leader of opposition in Parliament. That's where we have seen concerns were arising following the tabling of the demonstration of Parliament Amendment Bill of 2004. That's only where we did see Mitiana South legislator tabling the leader of opposition bill in Parliament in there. And now the bill seeks to have also the leader of opposition in Parliament elected by all opposition parties, unlike also where it has been only approved and elected or nominated by the leading opposition group in Parliament, Mr. Lumuso, to have leave out of Power House also to introduce the bill, and that is where we did see it also really being raised. And during also the regional sittings in Gulu on August 31st, that was also where we did see this bill being tabled, and that is where we are going to be seeing the bill be first also really be also discussed in there. But I want to assure you that this did not go on well with the section of legislators, and this urgent consideration of the bill did not also really go well with a number of legislators who have been seeking a similar opportunity to table other amendments solely on matters since last year. But update, they have not been given the chance. And if you look at some of the members of Parliament who are trying to solely propose a number of issues, we have also a group that has been also fronting to have the backbench commissioners be impeached in there, and this did not go on well. And the group led by Theodore Kubo and Alionio Drea-York have not been happy. And if you talk about Alionio Drea-York, the Aringa South Member of Parliament, you will realize that he also raised concern that he raised a bill that solely for amendment of the Parliament Act in relation to the voting of the parliamentary commissioners. I gave notice to the House of the Speaker last year on October 17th, and since last year also up to date, he has not been given chance to have this bill tabled. And what is special with this amendment of Lumu, which was generated in Gulu within a month and is now on the order paper. And yesterday I want to assure you that Parliament was a bit hot, because I did take some time also to follow Parliament yesterday. You read that Alioni is indeed unhappy with the Speaker of Parliament and also the Deputy when it comes to also addressing and driving the Parliament and driving the House also in there. And I want to assure you that the legislator is not happy, but really how can they be helped? Because we need to ensure that there's equity when it comes to solely addressing some of these issues. Now, Jonathan Edur, and Alioni is not alone. We also did see Jonathan Edur, the Erut South Member of Parliament, a shadow cabinet for Justice and Constitutional Affairs, say that their concern is also about impartiality of the presiding officer, who have also on top that is also some of the position that they decided to give some members preferential treatment, and that is where we did see also him not being happy about. Not forgetting also the leader who has been leading the group to also look for signatures to have this backbench commission also be impeached. That's Mr. Theodore Kubo, the Miyaga County Member of Parliament in Sawale District, also and the lead proponent of the motion that sought to impeach the commissioners of Parliament, who also partook in service award to a tune of about 1.7 billion, said he was disappointed at the manner in which his motion was thrown out, and this means that these people are not happy. But what can maybe the House do to make sure that these people also realize that indeed they have also their mandate for their issues also to be heard in there, because it is entirely their duty to be heard. If at all the House also must be able to understand, also give hearing also a time for them to also understand what is happening in there. Mr. Taiwo also said the causes of Mr. Oguzu and the Alioni would also be considered, adding that he could also not answer how swiftly Lumu's bill was also processed and gazetted inside the bill. But what does it take for a bill to be included on the order paper is what somebody out there must also really be interested in understanding, because if you look at all this not go on well with also really some of the legislators who have also raised concern. Now, chairperson and deputy chairpersons of standing committees of parliament, according to Lumu, the manner of the election of the leader of opposition is provided also in section 8 act of that is solely simply imposed on the members of the opposition in parliament. That means that is solely without their will. But don't you think it's right for this also a bill to be processed and these changes to be made in there, because we are hearing the leader of opposition in parliament, but the leader of opposition in parliament is appointed by one group. So at the end of the day, don't you think that this would also not unite all the leader opposition members in parliament? That is where we will see maybe DP remain DP because the leader of opposition is from FDC. Maybe we would also see NUP not wanting to work with also JEMA, just because the leader of opposition is, let's say, from ANT. So I think all in all, this is also something that I felt is also really very much important to be changed on. But the entire decision is also on you to see whether we should be able to sort of make some of these changes, or we leave that entirely like that in there. Now there are 5 opposition parties in parliament, with also the NUP, also Mr. Joel Senyuk as the current holder of also the leader of opposition parliament position, as others already are from FDC, DP, UPC, and JEMA, who are all in the house in there, and Lumu accuses Senyuk of also suppressing the views of other parties. And that is where he is seeking to have also the amendments on also the position and also how people are being voted that position in there. Now the draft bill also proposes that also the process of removal of office also that's also from leader of opposition parliament be prescribed also in parliament rules of procedure on that's sort of grounds of affirmity, incompetence, and misbehavior. And that is where we did see also Mr. Lumu also making those changes in that. Now Article 82, that is A of the Constitution of the Republic of Uganda, also the office of the leader of opposition under the multi-organization, or multi-party form of democracy, is what exactly what we did see happening in there. Meanwhile, Kira Municipality Member of Parliament, Ibrahim Semuju Nganda, says that the law depriving the biggest party of choosing the leader of opposition in parliament also sets a bad precedent, saying what also disagreements or removal of leaders of opposition should not be motivation enough to change the law. And that is one thing where we did see also really the member of parliament also really for Kira Municipality also really raising concern about in there. Mr. Francis Katabazi, the Kalungu East member of parliament, who also was here over the weekend and now he has returned back to parliament. That shows how serious he is and how focused he is. Says that this will weaken the opposition and it's also really the core mandate of keeping the ruling government in check, and saying that the bill is motivated by emotions rather than also really logic and principle. So he feels that this is not right for the bill to be amended. And what do you think as the viewer? Do you think it's quite important, or we should maintain the bill as it is? We are going to be taking a short commercial break. This is the KOKOLIRIKO live show on West Nile TV, channel 477, as we get to move on with the show. And our final destination, of course, remains 9 o'clock. And today is a Wednesday. We are talking about the second day, also really into the month of October. Yesterday was first. We were able to really see the learners also really receiving their results, where the head teachers of the different schools within Arua city were able to also really come and see whether they can be able to come and receive their results in there. But many of them also returned up to also receive their results, and that is quite important. And now they must take the learners their results and share with them to ensure that there are changes and to make sure so the learners indeed pass at the final examinations. We are going to be taking a short commercial break. This is the KOKOLIRIKO live show. When we come back, we are still going to be continuing with many other stories. Stay tuned.
West Nile TV, lighting up the region. Lamine Yamal, Antoine Griezmann. La Liga comes to Star Times.
A wild celebration!
The big stars, the tiki-taka football, Real Madrid and Barcelona live in your living room.
Real Madrid, a team of dreams!
Catch all 380 games live and in HD on Sports Premium Channel 259 and Channel 246 starting this August 15th. Subscribe to StarTimes Classic or Smart Bouquet at 36,000 Uganda shillings to enjoy the football experience affordably. StarTimes Football and Limited Passion. West Nile TV, lighting up the region.
All right, welcome back from the short commercial break. We are still continuing with the discussion that our final destination, of course, remains 9 o'clock. And still looking at some of the stories, and I want to show you that the members of parliament from northern Uganda are not happy when it comes to the payment at the Machison Falls National Park, and now they're pushing for free access, that is to Machison Falls Park. And now the members of parliament also from northern Uganda have intensified their push, that is also for the government to grant free access to Machison Falls National Park in there. Now they urge that Uganda Wildlife Authority should not also be charging the current park charges or fees of 25,000 because travelers from West Nile sub-region, Lango and Acholi have been forced to also use the park by the ongoing rehabilitation of the Karuma Park. And that is where they're not also really happy about. But really, nobody has also really been happy when it comes to paying 25,000. Imagine you have already paid 50,000 also to the bus owners. Again, 25,000 to the park also really just because you are going to be passing through the park. Really, is it right? Share your thoughts, share your opinions with us, and we shall be in position to slowly go through some of those comments in there. Now, led by Killer County Member of Parliament, Mr. Gilbert Olanya, the MP staged a protest at the park also on Monday, demanding the suspension of transport fees until the government also grants free entry and exit for the people also who are passing through the national park in there. Now, at Pakwach, we are able to slowly see heavy deployment of UPDF soldiers and the police, with security forces patrolling to prevent potential protests. Because if you look at the day before yesterday, the MPs also already that's already from northern Uganda, led by Olanya Gilbert for Kilak South Member Parliament, and the MP for Ivu East, that's Feta Geoffrey, also already together with also already our own, also already from Arua District, and many other MPs also already joining hands in there. And I want to show you that this is actually where we did see also the Obiga Rose of Terego also not being happy when it comes to payments at the Machison Park also in there, because people have been forced. Sincerely, people have been forced to also pass through the park, because initially people used to pass via Karuma, and now that Karuma is under rehabilitation, people have been forced to also already pass via the park. But now the issue has been the issue of payment, which also already is not also already well with some of the drivers in there. Now, last week, bus drivers in West Nile sub-region protested the diversion through Bulisa, citing concern over the narrow, also the forested roads, which they urge that also poses risk threats also to them in there. And that is one thing we did not also go on well. And what is the reversed decision? Also in response, Uganda Wildlife Authority reversed its decision and allowed buses to pass through Tangi Gate in Machison Falls Park because the drivers had protested. And Ms. Masi Munduru, a lawyer who usually frequently travels to West Nile, questioned the fairness of charging motorists forced to use the park in there. And that is one thing which I feel at the end of the day is really not right in there, for people also to pay money. Really, for somebody to pay 25,000, add on 50, you're already counting 75,000 just because you have also had the interest of passing through the park. What does that mean, and what exactly will that mean to you, the traveler, who is also trying to move in there? Now, the manager of communication at Uganda Wildlife Authority, Mr. Bashir Hangi, acknowledged the situation and said that in response to the close of the Karuma Bridge and feedback also that's already when it comes to also from stakeholders, UA has revised also the previous guidelines for motorists using alternative routes via the park until December 31st, and that is what he did say in here. Now, we added that the buses passing through Tangi route must also adhere to operating hours, speed limits, and rules prohibiting littering and also the unnecessary stopovers. And now Uganda National Road Authority began rehabilitating Karuma Bridge last week, and we did see also it moving on, and we are expecting this period to take about 3 months when it comes to rehabilitating this also road in there, because if you look at the road, trust me, this road has also not been well in there for quite a long period of time. People have also died as a result of accidents on this road, and I hope at the end of the day, rehabilitating this road is actually something I must say has been long overdue, and now with the rehabilitation, we hope it will be bringing any developments and also avoiding people from also the death in there, because the road had actually become a death trap during accidents solely for most travelers and motorists who use the road in there, and that's where we're going to be also leaving that story aside. But the MPs are pushing for free access. That is to Merchant Falls Park route, and that is where people who are planned to pass via Para, because from Pakwach, that is actually where they connect via also that route. Unlike, first of all, connecting Karuma this time round, they are just also crossing via the park to connect, that is to Kampala and other parts of Masindi, Hoima, via the ferry in there. But that is one thing also which we are going to be following up on, and I want to say the road is actually good. At one time, I used that road after a long period of time, and this time around, I hope to also pass via it again, but I am not ready to pay the mandatory 25,000 which is being asked for at the gate, because I really want to also pass and see the wild animals. I am a Ugandan, and I feel happy to also see these animals, and if I'm to pay, it shouldn't be by force. That is what I think, but you also as the viewer can still share your thoughts and still share your opinions on what we are going to be discussing, as we are just left with 5 minutes. That's to wind up with the first hour, and that's only where we are going to be connecting into our second hour. But now to summarize this hour, we did see also the President Museveni launching another liberation war. That is on money lenders. Money lenders have always been a challenge, grabbing people's IDs. Women have suffered a lot. But now President Museveni has declared another liberation war on these money lenders who are also errant, who would not also listen to instructions what government is telling them in there. And whatsoever the case, Museveni has already launched another war on them. Now President Museveni was sort of declaring the war, was returning also to Bush. Again this time round, also sought out money lenders whom he says are exploiting the Bazukulu, and these are the grandchildren. And now speaking at the opening of Southern and Eastern also African Chief Justice Forum, that's at Nyonyi on Tuesday, Mr. Museveni said his government was working on a law also to regulate also extorting money lenders to trap unsuspecting money borrowers in there. But today I want to show you that many people have actually lost monies when it comes to also losing it in the hands of these money lenders. So all in all, I think it's quite important for money lenders also to understand that the citizens also indeed have a mandate to play when it comes to solely having their money solely be paid in. Now, many Ugandans have lost their property solely to money lenders who take advantage of ignorance and a capitalist economy like Uganda that has already led many people to losing a lot of monies due to money lenders. Today, people have lost IDs because for you to borrow money from a money lender, they would usually say, bring this and that as collateral. But at the end of the day, people are not also getting their IDs. So I think they are also losing a lot of opportunities. And today, with also the parish development model, our women who borrowed monies and find it hard to pay the money afterwards are missing the opportunity. And that is where government also must come up with the law to regulate also these money lenders who are also taking advantage of the vulnerable community members. Now, in a capitalist economy like Uganda, money lenders have also thrived due to the informal nature of the economy that limits access, that is to loan services like by banks. So today, many of the poor solely under the capitalist economy have not been able to solely borrow money from the banks. So where they resort to, we resort also to borrowing money from these money lenders and these small institutions solely at higher interest rates in there. At the end of the day, what do we expect? we are expecting also the increased what we call rates, because if you look at also the money, which in most cases people borrow per annum, you realize that also the money keeps on accumulating, and with the interest also keep on going higher. When people fail to pay the money, there are also the charges. So I think that is where it becomes a challenge, where women find it hard to pay this money at the end of the day. But we're saying people must also really be able to also really understand that the borrowers could also at the end of the day fail because they did not want, but they failed just because they did not have the money in there. Now the money lending sector is a big one, also from the lower ranks to high-end dealers, who include some also of the biggest business moguls, and this is also in the country, who are also giving out money as money lenders in there. But what do you think, and what's your experience with the money lenders? Have you ever borrowed money from these institutions? And what was your experience like? You can still share your thoughts and share your opinions on how they treated you. Was it the best way? And was there any manipulations? Was there any maybe form of lies? Because sometimes also people are lied to that you will be paying under small interest of this amount, and the money is keep on accumulating. This is what sometimes makes it hard for people to borrow money and find it difficult as well to pay for these monies. That is where we are going to be taking yet another short commercial break. This is the KOKOLIRIKO live show. Remember, our final destination remains 9 o'clock. And after 9 o'clock, that's when we shall be saying goodbye from also here. And that will also usher us into the Oilers and News Bulletin. And thereafter, we shall be having the Northern Request Hour. Not only that, we also have many other interesting programs. The Street Talk also will be coming through with MC Sarge. And later on, the Whistle Time also with Owen Ezaga and Nida Suzy will be back to also let you know what is happening in the world of sports. What Arsenal exactly did last night, and what happened also to Man City in there, and how they were able to beat their games in there. That's where Linda Suzy, together with Owen Ezaga, will be also to let you know what is happening in there. And for the lovers of movie, we are not also leaving you out. For those who love watching movies, the cinemas, definitely the cinema also will be coming back with the movie time. There will be also 2 hours of also where you will be watching that movie in there. Any movie of your type, they will usually bring them there. And these are always interesting movies. And thereafter, we shall be having the Chuku Chuku with MC Sarge, us and the Big Brother Liz Honey, who will be also here and summarizing also the day will be the nightcast. And later on, the Kelele show also as well will be coming on. And that's how our program also for today looks like. And for those who love also watching these programs, remember at least there will be a program that will be also letting you know what exactly is happening. And that is why the KOKOLIRIKO live show is here. We take a short commercial break. When we bounce back, we are going to be continuing with the discussions. This is the KOKOLIRIKO live show. We are into the second hour, but we take a short commercial break. When we come back, your comments are highly welcome, and we shall be also checking through to see what you are thinking and what you feel needs to be done in there. We take a short commercial break.
West Nile TV, lighting up the region.
Bellingham, Vinicius Jr., Lamine Yamal, Antoine Griezmann. La Liga comes to Star Times.
A wild celebration!
The big stars, the tiki-taka football, Real Madrid and Barcelona live in your living room.
Real Madrid, a team of dreams!
Catch all 380 games live and in HD on Sports Premium Channel 259 and Channel 246 starting this August 15th. Subscribe to StarTimes Classic or Smart Bouquet at 36,000 Uganda shillings to enjoy the football experience affordably. StarTimes Football and limited passion.
West Nile TV, lighting up the region.
All right, welcome back into our second hour. We're at 5 minutes after 8 o'clock, and this is solely where we are now going to be starting with our discussions right away with endorsement that is of Mafabi by Amuriat. That's for 26 also presidential race in there, and that is one thing also really which I feel we need to also begin our discussions right away with. Now the Forum for Democratic Change Party, that is under their President Patrick Amuriat Boy, has weighed on its potential presidential candidates. That's solely of Nandala Mafabi, a seasoned FDC leader and Secretary General of the party in there, who has now been endorsed also really by the party president Amuriat in that's solely Amuriat in there. Now Amuriat's passed also really Mafabi's competence, affirming his readiness also in the country's also really top job, while emphasizing the party's also commitment to democratic processes as it prepares for the 2026 general elections in there. Now Amuriat described Mafabi as a very competent leader who also really could also really be a good president for this country in there. Now his statement also marks a significant endorsement for Mafabi, but also Amuriat clarified that the race for FDC's presidential flag bearer is still open to all credible members of the party, and he stressed that also the selection process will be fair and transparent in line with also the party's constitution, which includes vetting candidates and possibly holding primaries, and that is where they will be declaring the position also now officially be voted for. And now he affirmed that beyond just selecting the candidate, FDC is focused on ensuring consensus candidate who will be supported also by the entire members and strengthening the party's also unity in there. Now, in light of the upcoming elections, which also Amuriat outlined on, and also outlined that the FDC's strategic mobilization also efforts revealing the plans to hold a national council meeting that would also be taking place on October 17th of this year. And now the meeting will bring together party chairpersons already from across Uganda to deliberate on the party's past activities and evaluate its recent nationwide tour, which covered 7 sub-regions, and that is where they will be now going back to evaluate to see if at all this worked out for them, or if it did not work out, and where it did not work out, where could be challenges, and what could have not been done, or what could have also been left out, is why they will be going back to solely see where they did not go on well in there. Now, Amuriat explained that this assessment will guide the party's approach moving forward, also particularly in deciding whether to continue mass rallies or adopt more covert and localized strategies. And that is one thing also we did see happening there, as hinted that the party might also target regions where also really its support has waned with the more covert also efforts, while reserving mass rallies for areas where the FDC still has a solid base. I'm talking about areas that still have solid base. I believe West Nile is still a fertile ground for FDC, if at all. They make changes here and there, because we saw that when Patrick Amuriat Boy and Nathan and Mafabi, we are here launching the online mass registration exercise. And we did see also that with the numbers, it means that the land is still fertile for the group also that also dons the blue color in there. Now, that's what we didn't see happening there. And also we did see Amurat hinting also the party might target regions where its support solely must have deployed, and that is where we hope at the end of the day they will be also moving to see how best they can be able to solely address some of these issues. Now he wanted also that returnees should not impose what we call conditions on the FDC leadership, urging them to follow also on the FDC leadership, and that is one thing we did see happening in there. Now I'm going to also use the opportunity to call on Ugandans to view the FDC as a party of choice of the upcoming also the elections, expressing confidence that FDC also will perform better in 2026 than it was in 2021, as he encouraged that those interested in contesting under the FDC banner to begin mobilizing also support at the grassroots level, calling for crucial for the party's success in there. And that is where we are going to be following up on, and we want to see how best this will be ending. Now, Amuria Settlement is seeking out a period of significant activity and preparation for the FDC with a clear vision solely on internal unity, democratic processes, and strategic planning as the party gears up for the 2026 general elections. And that means they are already organizing and restructuring ahead of the time also, because if at all they are waiting for 2026, trust me, the time may not be well for them, because we're just counting less than 15 months. That is to the next general elections, because if you look at this month, it's already done. Active politics by next year begins actively showing, and that means people must be also preparing for it right now in there. But that is one thing at the end of the day which we follow wouldn't also be very much bad for people to also engage in politics at this time. And now the potential candidacy of Nandala Fabi, a key figure within Forum for Democratic Change, could not also bring renewed vigor and focus the party's presidential ambitions in there. That's one thing which we are following up on, and we want to see how best this will be ending, and whether it will end in favor of the party or it will not also be in favor of the party is what we are yet following up on, and we want to see how this will be ending. And that's where we're going to be leaving the discussion aside. And as we go on, police is hunting for a man who fleeced a Kampala pastor of shillings 700 million Ugandan shillings. And now this is also where police in Kampala have started a manhunt. That is also for a man who fleeced 7 million Ugandan shillings from a Kampala pastor, also in the name of helping him acquire licenses for his 2 TV stations. That's from Uganda Communications Commissions, and that is where we are now seeing that happening. As it is alleged that between 2020 and 2024, Jed Daniel Kabanda connived with Rita Namarwa, purported to be UCC officials, and received money from Bishop Grievous Chiwanuka, Musi of Prayer Palace Chibuye, after duping him that they would help him also acquire 2 licenses, but also equipment for his 2 TV stations, and that's also what we did see happening in there. Now the website also has learned that the pastor wrote to UCC to inquire about the stage of which the two TV stations license had reached, and he was informed that all the suspects are not also known to the commission, and that means he was conned in there. Today we talk about 700 million Ugandan shillings. It means that con men are still within us. So let's avoid also these businesses of also what we call the backdoor meetings. Let's use the right channels. UC officers are always known. Walk in there, because if at all you are not going to be working in there, people are going to be taking advantage of you. And that may not be right, as also for you to witness all that in there. And that is one thing which at the end of the day I feel must be talked about. And in September 9th, 2024, letter also written to UC. They said they didn't have any employee by the name of Ed Daniel Kabanda, and they had never received the application for a license. And that is one thing we did see happening in that. Consequently, UCC opened a general inquiry file with police to investigate the matter, and the Kampala Metropolitan Deputy Police Spokesperson Luke Owesjire said whereas they have also arrested Namarwa, they are currently hunting for Kabanda, who is currently on the run in there. And that is one thing which we also following up on, and we want to see how this person can be brought to book in there for conning over 700 million Uganda shillings. Now also noted the money was paid in installments after the couple had also asked for shillings 1 billion, and that is where they will also really con in there. Now he appealed to anyone with credible information leading the arrest of Kabanda, also to provide it to any nearby police station so that the man can be tracked down in there. That goes back to also the question, how are you relating and what kind of people are you relating with? Because if you look at all this, these conmen are very many in the society today, but then the question is, how can you avoid being duped by the conmen? Because if you look at also these men who are taking advantage of the people, it's not only the men today, we also have women who are into this business of conning. You will think that this woman is actually indeed a person whom you can trust in, not knowing that these are actually con women out there. So I think all in all, it goes back to also using the right channels. Let's avoid backdoor communication. Let's use the right channels. Let's be open. Let's do everything in open to make sure that at least we are not also taken advantage of. Because if at all we are going to be allowed people to take advantage of us, the outcomes are quite clear, and such repercussions already will not be able to solely spare us in there, and that will not be right. So I think it's quite important for families out there, for people who are into business, to avoid backdoor meetings, and that would also be very much important for them to also avoid being taken advantage of in there. And that is one thing also which we are going to be moving on with, and the humble message is that do not engage in transactions of money with people whom you suspect could be thieves in there. Even if you still do not trust them, find out, dig more deep about them, consult. And that would also be very, very much important for you to take advantage of. And for those who are in that business, please, I'm not spoiling your business. I'm not also sensitizing the public about also your business, but I'm saying, if I told you into that business, let's avoid it, because we are making people cry, we're making people carry on losses, and that will not be very, very much well for them in there. And leaving the story aside, heading to Makerere University as we are moving on with time, and you realize there is an ease at Makerere University as staff plan strike on visiting Museveni. This is on the Nile Post, another story that we are seeing on the past morning. While staff at Makerere University are tiptoeing about, the casting also furtive glances at anything also around them after word filtered that in some of their members face imminent also arrest over planned strike in there. That's also where we did the joint staff association was headed also scheduled to take place at 2 p.m. yesterday to vote a motion also to lay down their tools over the university's failure to fulfill a full package pay demand. And that is one thing also which we did see happening in there. But what exactly is happening? As also say Special Forces Command, there's also who are guarding the president, that the first family also are taking chances with anything related to strikes when it involves the presence of the head of state. And are they going to be allowing this happen this time round? We are keenly following up on that. And however, the Nile Post has learned that they have not also get on comment from also the forces in there. But I want to assure you that President Museveni is set to visit the university, but now the lecturers are planning a strike in there. Now the planned strike comes at a time where the president is said to also be at the Makerere University today to raft also events, including the installation of the chancellor, that is Crispus Chiyonga, reopening of the refurbished main building and Lumumba Hall, as the new also law school building have been opened. Because if you look at the renovations that have been going on at Makerere University, and when you talk about the Ivory Tower, which also got burnt, it was rehabilitated. And this time round, also Lumumba Hall, which many of the Makerereans also go to, is also renovated. And not forgetting that, what about the law school? All these have been renovated. So the president is expected to be there today to also really see to that he launches all these buildings. And this would also really make sure that we give a facelift to Uganda's, one of the oldest and of course the biggest universities that is in Africa, to also have a facelift. Because if you look at Makerere, for it to operate under dilapidated structures, it will not be right. Because you look at how it has also raised the flag of the country, it will not be right in there. This is a government university, and that is where we would also want to see more uplifts be done. It should not only be maybe limited to Makerere University, but of course to all the other universities. They all deserve facelift. What about the private universities? As well, as I believe they also deserve also really to be also supported in there, and that would make it very much okay for us to also really admire our schools in there. And that is why we must also really support government when it comes to also really ensuring that these universities are supported. And that's where we are going to be leaving that story aside, but still moving on with other stories also happening elsewhere in there. Because if you look at Wednesday, you realize a lot more is happening because many people are preparing for weekend. In a rural city, weekends usually start on Thursday, where you see party animals preparing their boots, preparing their clothes to also really start enjoying from Wednesday, because by Thursday they already out enjoying, also already happening and happening, also really going to happening places to also really be part of those who are celebrating also really in there. And that is where we're going to be leaving also that story aside and looking at what's happening elsewhere in other schools. Government rolls out solar power initiative. That is for schools. Is another story we are seeing where the Ministry of Education and the government through the Ministry of Education and Sports is launching what we call ambitious solar power initiative to electrify schools across the country, and the priority will be given that institutions in hard to reach areas where the World Bank also sponsored program is valued at about 19 billion, approximately 5.5 billion US dollars, which will initially target that's also 60 schools in its first phase, with a total of 170 schools planned. And that is where we're going to be seeing the 170 schools also really getting support under that initiative in there. Now, during the commission of the solar also system at that's already at Becker Secondary School, which is in Wakiso District, also Minister Muingo emphasized the importance of renewable energy, and the First Lady, Minister Janet Makata Museveni, also praised Nexus Green, the company behind the initiative, for supporting the government also climate change mitigation efforts. Because if you look at climate change today, it remains a great concern where many people are also talking about it, and that is where we would also wish to ask you as the viewer out there to also support the government initiatives and also support government when it comes to issues pertaining climate change, and ways of mitigating these changes are actually paramount in our hands. We have to do something. That means we do not have to do things that will first of all harm the environment, but also we have to do things that will definitely support the environment in there. And Mr. Ricky Vama, Nexus Green founder and CEO, also conceived the idea during the meeting also with First Lady, aiming to roll out solar energy in all government schools in there. Now the government plans to expand solarization through the electricity also access scalar project and provide what we call a standalone systems under the long-term also performance-based what we call contracts. And that is where we are expecting that all these projects should be able to solely bring changes. That's solely for people also to understand that indeed we have to do something when it comes to solely changing all this. The mindset is entirely in us, and we have to do something when it comes to addressing all these areas. So it is entirely in our hands, and we have to work towards also improving on the livelihoods. First of all, through lighting up the area. That is usually where we're going to be seeing the schools lit up. And once the schools are lit up, first of all, we are going to be seeing that also coming with the benefit of improving on security, where theft and other bad activities that happen in darkness will not be happening in there, and issues of early pregnancy amongst the learners is also going to be reducing, because sometimes the darkness promotes what we call those illicit relationships. So I think that is also where we're going to be seeing it be avoided, and that will be able to solely avoid on all those in there. And now that's where we're going to be leaving the discussion aside. Judge refers Akamba's human rights case to Constitutional Court is another story we are seeing, where the High Court in Kampala has referred a human rights application that was filed by Busiki County Member of Parliament Namutumba, Member of Parliament, that's Paul Akamba, to Constitutional Court. That's solely for determination. And in his application, Mr. Akamba, who is accused of seeking for 20% kickback from the chairperson of Uganda Human Rights Commission on budget allocation, had wanted the court to drop the corruption also charges on him, as he claims that he was tortured. And however, in his ruling on October 1st, the presiding judge, also that's Lawrence Gidudu, declined to drop the charges against Akamba, and instead temporarily halted his trial, together with his co-accused, pending the determination of the Constitutional Court in there. And he's accused alongside Yusuf Matembuli, the Bunyole East Member of Parliament in Butaleja District, and Sisi Namuju Dioniza, who is also the District Woman Member of Parliament for Luengo. And this is also where we are seeing also the charges also asked to be dropped in there. But among the questions, the court also made reference to the Constitutional Court to determine also include whether he provide whether the provisions also of sections 7, 8, 11 and subsection 2 of the Human Rights Social Enforcement Act, Cap also 112, which mandates the trial court to nullify a trial and acquit an accused without also evidence also in a trial violates the rights of fair hearing under Article 28 of the Constitution of the Republic of Uganda, where the victim of crime and also society has a right to hear that's all for fair hearing under Article 28 of the Constitution of the Republic of Uganda. That's also where the judge made his also the submission 2 when it comes to also forwarding the matter to the Constitutional Court. Then the judge also declined to stop another separate trial against Mr. Kamba, in which he also is also accused of theft of over shillings 3.4 billion together with the former permanent secretary at the Ministry of Trade, Industry and Cooperatives, that's General Sali Busulwa, and 4 others also in another court, citing lack of jurisdiction, and that's why we did see also that happening in there. Now, before Justice Jane Kajungo Okuo, Mr. Kamba is accused of conspiring with Ms. Sali and other MPs, Michael Mwanda of Vigara East, Ignatius Mudumi and that's Elgon County, lawyer Taintako and Leonard Chivondira, principal also cooperative officer from the Ministry of Trade, Industry and also the cooperatives, to defraud the government of shillings 3.4 billion, which was intended also to be given, that is to compensate the war victims also of Biyaka Growers Cooperative, also society. So I think that is where it is, and that's also where we're following up on that matter, and to see if at all this matter will be thrown out of court. But for now, it's still a matter that is being under investigation, and that's also where we're going to be seeing this matter be investigated. And we are following up to see how this matter will be going on, because if you look at the issue of where these MPs have been accused of corruption, today many people also think all the MPs are corrupt. And that is where last weekend I was Greenlight, where the MPs were playing. But if you really had the stories also of what locals are saying, it means that most of the locals have a belief that the MPs are actually corrupt persons. And that may not be true. So I think all in all, we have a role to play when it comes to solely sensitizing the locals and telling them that not all the MPs are corrupt. So I think the MPs solely have a task to play when it comes to solely cleaning up their energy and also cleaning up their bodies away from also the vice of corruption, because this is actually where many of them have been also termed, and that's already pinned also in there, but we're following up on to see how this will be ending. But that will also not be very much also important for us to sort of see how these MPs are also be maybe targeted and also be put under corruption in there. Now also that is where we're going to be leaving the discussion aside, as we are counting down 5 minutes to wind up with this half of the show. And that is where we're going to be seeing also another story where there was blood spill in a ruthless request for business control, as investors also really turned to be fighters. And these are Chinese who also had to exchange and also really show their kung fu skills in there. Now, Uganda has long been a hub for Chinese investors, offering them incentives like also land, personal security, and numerous business privileges. However, a darker side also of these investments has surfaced, as some criminally minded Chinese nationals engage also in violent acts, challenging Uganda's laws with alarming impunity. And that is one thing which we're following up on and happening in Uganda, where the Chinese are not also really respecting Ugandan laws. So what does that mean? It's actually quite embarrassing that also this is the aim story also of the Tiantang investment saga, where we did see also the Chinese nationals exchanging fights and exchanging kung fu skills. In the site of September also 18th of 24, a 62-year-old Liu Kisang and his son 32-year-old Liu Habin were brutally also attacked in their home in Namamve. And the two also owners of Nekwatu Automobile Group in Mbale were assaulted also by fellow Chinese nationals, allegedly also connected to the Tiantang Group, a prominent industrial player in Uganda. If you look at Tiantang, today actually this company also has a factory and a warehouse in Arua City, and this is actually where we're seeing them going back to solely attack fellow Chinese. So it's quite absurd. It's quite embarrassing as well. It means that government will have to step in to regulate on some of the activities of these Chinese nationals and to find out what exactly could be happening also within the camps also of these Chinese in there. Now the police spokesman Freddy Nanga confirmed the involvement of Tiantang Group employees in the attack, also stating that also their silence assaulted the victims, vandalized their property, and also made off with 2 phones, a laptop and a desktop computer, and both victims are currently seeking medical attention and police protection also in there. Now that's sort of where we did see also the investigations already being carried out, and we have found out that this is as a result of business. But how can business lead to that extent of taking the laws into your hands, and to the extent that you are deported? Because the recent story also that also we did see is that we had rumors also that these nationals have currently been deported. So to be deported and be sent back to China, and you have to go back and tell people that you are deported for this and that, don't you think you're going to be losing out on opportunities? Don't you think that you're going to be losing out on chances where your business have already established? So I think that is where we are going to be also following up on that discussion, and we are following up and also really see how this will be ending, because these are stories that should also not be happening in our areas, and we should also desist from seeing this happen, because if at all the Chinese investors are first of all fighting amongst themselves, the employees will be the next time it will be also the employees who will be fighting amongst themselves, because that time they saw the bosses fighting. So I think it is quite important for government to come back and regulate on some of the operations of these foreign nationals, and to make sure that as these nationals are working in the country, there's some bit also of checks to make sure that the freedom given to them is not absolute. The freedom must also be checked. It must be controlled to make these people work very well and relate well with other fellows. Because if at all they're not relating well, the outcomes are quite clear where we are going to be seeing these bad activities happening. And that's where we're going to be taking a short commercial break. And remember, after here, we are going to be having the AOL as a news bulletin with Fete Manuel. And thereafter, the Northern Request Hour also shall be following up, and many other interesting programs also still shall be following up in the due course of the day. For now, we are taking a short commercial break. This is the KOKOLIRIKO live show. In case you're just joining us right now, or you are watching us for the very first time, this is the KOKOLIRIKO live show that comes your ways every Mondays to Fridays, right from 7 o'clock until 9 o'clock, where we give you stories of what's happening in the world of current affairs, in the world of news, and also what continues to make ground within your society. My name is Farish Majid. We are taking a short commercial break. Stay tuned.
West Nile TV, lighting up the region.
Bellingham, Vinicius Jr., Lamine Yamal, Antoine Griezmann. La Liga comes to Star Times.
A wild celebration!
The big stars, the tiki-taka football, Real Madrid and Barcelona live in your living room.
Real Madrid, the team of dreams!
Catch all 380 games live and in HD on Sports Premium, Channel 259 and Channel 246. Starting this August 15th. Subscribe to Star Times Classic or Smart Bouquet at 36,000 Uganda shillings to enjoy the football experience affordably. Star Times Football and limited passion.
West Nile TV, lighting up the region.
All right, welcome back and welcome to the final half of today's discussions, and we are counting down very few minutes to wind up with today's discussions. And this is where I want to take this opportunity to welcome you on board from wherever you're watching us from, and I want to say thank you so much for watching Western Television. To you, the ardent viewer who is always watching us each and every Mondays to Fridays, right from 7 o'clock to 9 o'clock, I want to say thank you, and thank you again for always being part of the biggest television when it comes to the Northern Uganda and West Nile at large. So I think it is quite important for us to also be part of the discussions and always watching and letting you know what is happening in the entire country. And now the biggest story also in Northern Uganda is the decision by Uganda Wildlife Authority asking for money for travelers to pass through the Merchant Park. This has not been well with most of the travelers, as the members of parliament also from the region have also already been able to solely raise their concern in there about the same. But I want to assure you, government upholds vehicle charges for Merchant Falls National Park transit. Is another story we are seeing this morning, as also already we are seeing Uganda State Minister for Wildlife and Antiquities, Mr. Martin Mugara, has reaffirmed that also the Uganda Wildlife Authority will not continue charging vehicles transiting through Merchant Falls National Park, and that could also be a good news for those who have also really been pushing for free access to Merchant Park also in there. Now also the decision follows controversy sparked by some members of parliament representing constituencies in Northern Uganda. That means at least justice has finally been served to the people of Northern Uganda. And Mr. Gilbert Olanya, MP for Kilak County, has said the charges also travelers to Northern Uganda is unfair, particularly since also those passing through Lake Mburo National Park and Queen Elizabeth National Park in Western Uganda are not charged. Why is it that those who are passing through Merchant Falls Park also must be charged? And that is one thing we did see happening in there. However, Mugara clarified that the Kichumbonya Paratangi Park road was also constructed strictly as a tourism road, not for general public usage in there. And now travelers to West Nile and Lango, actually, and Northern Uganda entirely have also been asked to use the alternative route through Kiriadongo via the Karuma Bridge to either Pakwach or Gulu, to also avoid the coast despite traversing through the Merchant Falls National Park in there. But this is something which I feel has been long overdue. Now, recently, Uganda National Roads Authority also came out and closed Karuma Bridge for a period of at least 3 months to allow rehabilitation of the roadwork, since the major also roadwork is actually determined because underneath the bridge had developed cracks. It means it was actually also another risk threat also in there. That's what followed, and where the bridge had to be closed totally. In the Mr. Mugano that while who acknowledged that the need for also what we call unimpeded transit, wildlife conservation must also be prioritized, and that is where we did see also vehicle access fees charging range from 20,000 and 50,000 depending on the size of the vehicle, and that is the money which people are being required to pay. But the MPs are pushing for free access. Kilak South Parliament Gilbert Olanya has not been happy about this, as well as Paparo also, many people have also been raised issues, and you look at Obiga Rose has also raised issues about that, and this is only where she feels people are being also manipulated. What about Ivory East Parliament Honorable Feta Geoffrey? I was able to see him walking barefoot, just to show that indeed he is not happy about what is happening. Trekking, walking barefoot. So I think that is also how serious the matter is, and we have to solely follow up on this matter to see how this will be ending and what the outcome of the whole scenario will be like, to see how this usually will be also traversing and how this exactly will be ending as we get move on with the show. But I want to assure you that this is actually one thing that we have been waiting for long overdue. If you look at the road is quite good, smooth, where you pass and have a chance to see the wild animals. And today, a lot of restrictions have been made where there is no room for unnecessary stopovers, where you're not allowed to hoot, where there's a speed limit you're supposed to be also driving at. You're not supposed to throw something out of also the bus or maybe out of the vehicle for these wild animals you see. So I think it is quite important for people to learn that also these laws are already in place. Because if you're arrested, there will be no need and there will also be no explanation of saying that I did not know. So these rules are all there for you, where you are not also supposed to solely do maybe some of the unnecessary and avoidable crimes. So I think that is where it becomes important for you as the viewer to also avoid some of these also activities and to make sure that also the matter does not catch you unawares in there. And under the law, there is no room also the ignorance of the law is never a defense. So I think it's quite important for you to learn that also you're not supposed to throw bananas to these wild animals, because this is what in most cases people love doing, because they feel the bananas also should be given to the animals. So it is not your duty to feed these animals. It's a duty rather of also the officials and to make sure these animals are fed in there. And that's where we're going to be leaving that discussion aside and looking at some of the stories happening elsewhere. Border passengers without helmets first arrest is another story we're seeing, where the Directorate of Traffic and Road Safety has revealed that border passengers, just like riders, will be arrested for not wearing helmets. So in Arua City, I don't know how many borders will be arrested. Now the revelation was made yesterday by the Directorate or spokesperson, Mr. Michael Kanura, during the weekly also press briefing that's in Kampala, where he issued that also the border riders and the motorists without helmets are facing to be arrested. And Mr. Kanura also explained that when road accidents occur, they affect both the rider and the passenger. So it is going to be prudent for all the riders to be having the helmets. So if you not have the helmet right now, that is where you will be arrested. And today, I want to show you the 3 months period, which was extended after the 6 months period elapsed by Uganda Revenue Authority to have motorcycles registered at half price has ended. Meaning anytime from now, we are going to be seeing Uganda Revenue Authority returning back on the road. You may be saying that you have the helmet, but is your motorcycle registered? That's where we're going to be seeing Uganda Revenue Authority also returning back on the road. And today they are going to be having an engagement at a Tropical Suites Hotel, and that's also where I believe they will be making confirmation on how they will be returning back on the road. Now, according to Express Penalty Scheme, riding a motorcycle solely on road without a helmet attracts a fine of 40,000 Ugandan shillings. And if not clear, police will stick with this fine and have you arrested. And now passengers have also as well as spoken about the same issue. And we do have Miss Irene Namutebi, about the passenger. Welcome the move also by the traffic police. And we did see Mr. Isaac Okelo, another motorcycle passenger, already said move cannot also work if police does not also enforce it. So I think it will also be very much important if the law is passed and the operation is made serious. I want to see how this operation is made serious by arresting whoever does not have a helmet. Just because we have seen the dangers of people riding without helmets. You move to the casualty, most of the hospitals, and in case of accidents, if you hear somebody has fallen and gotten maybe an accident on a motorcycle, you will always hear that the person didn't have helmets. And at the end of the day, we see people's heads scarring, maybe skulls also being affected. And that is also where we are following up on, and we want to see how this will be going on and how at the end of the day this will be ending. We want to see how all the riders will be getting the helmets and see to that also how everybody will be wearing them, because if at all people are not wearing the helmets, then what are they going to be wearing? What will happen to them in case of accidents? And that is where we are going to be following up on. And I don't know how many motorcycles, of course, in Western Sub-region will be arrested. Because if you look at the population of people with helmets, you all realize that it is only the government workers who in most cases are wearing the helmets, and people who work for non-government organizations, the civil society organizations, it is only the employees who in most cases have the helmets. But majority, do not have the helmets. So I think it's quite important for people to solely see how this will be ending and how people will be wearing the helmets and avoid unnecessary deaths when it comes to accidents. And that will also be very much important for people to also see that they have the helmets, and that would also be very much important for them to also end challenges and as a result of accidents. And that is where we're going to be leaving that discussion aside and looking at some of the stories happening elsewhere. Still on the monitor, 4 policemen have been arrested over receiving 5 million as bribe to free a defilement suspect. It's another story we're seeing, and I think this is really quite bad and signals a very bad precedent of the Uganda police, which is supposed to be guarding and also upholding the law also of this country. And defilement is actually a criminal activity, and once we see police officers also becoming corrupt by taking bribes, then it becomes very much bad. And now for police officers attached to Lolwe police station, that's in Bukoli Islands under Namaingo district, are being investigated currently also after a pastor who was also being held on allegations of defilement escaped from custody on September 29th. And Pastor Jimmy Masset, 42-year-old of Vision Way of Truth Church at Kadenge landing site in Lolwe Island, had on Sunday, also September 28th, been taken to custody at Kadenge Police Post for allegedly defiling and impregnating 30-year-old pupil. That's at Kadenge Church of Uganda God's Primary School. However, the suspect is said to be also have escaped from custody under also the unclear circumstances, according to the resident district commissioner, that is Mr. Suleiman Walugembe, who actually confirmed that. But what exactly happened? And now following the escape, Mr. Walugembe ordered also for the immediate arrest of the 4 police officers at Lower Police Station to aid police in investigation of the matter. And the matter suspects will include officer in charge, that's of the police, Robert Okello, Sergeant Edward Luboya, who was on duty, and we have a police constable only identified as Muhindo, and his colleague whose details also readily remain unavailable by press time. And that's where we are still going to be seeing, if at all, these people will be arrested to also help in tracing the pastor currently who is on run. And that would also really be quite important, because for you as a pastor, who is somebody who is trusted and somebody who the girl must have also relied on, and at the end of the day, when we see you being also the perpetrator and also the violator of this person's rights, then it becomes quite absurd for this person to continue also with activities. So I think it's quite good for police to track down on this the pastor and also give a heavy sentence for these police officers who also engage in this criminal activity in there. And that's one thing we did see, where from Sagiti Islands, Pastor Masete is said to have boarded another boat to Murumba landing site solely on Lake Victoria in Buhemba sub-county, also in Namaingo district, and later used the motorcycle to connect to Bugiri town also in there. But now where is he? According to sources solely following escape, police had reported also tried to cut one of the iron sheets in the cell to create also an opening that also suggests that the suspect had gone, and also used also the opening to escape out of the cell in there. But who cut the iron sheets? These are questions we need to understand. And his father solely alleged that he topped it up with shillings 2 million, which he said also is to use to regain his freedom. And now also that is one thing with this happening there, but you are using your freedom after violating the rights of an innocent person in there. Now that is where with this, the Namaingo District Police Commander, Mr. Ronald Kitanda, declined to comment on the matter and say that the DPC, as the DPC, I am not aware, I am not allowed also to speak to journalists when we have regional public relations officer who are supposed to solely speak out on your behalf. And that is one thing we did see happening in there. This is a challenge also which many people are facing sometimes, where the PROs are hardly accessible. It becomes hard for you to get the information, and yet the senior police officers are there. So I think this law solely of only allowing the PRO to speak on behalf of police is another law that must also be changed, because in areas, more so when it comes to critical stories, the stories one-sided, unbalanced, because the side of the police is hard to get. So I think that is where it becomes really very much difficult for people to also have access to certain information, and that would also be very much important for people to also really see how that will also be ending. And that's where we're going to be leaving the discussion aside and looking at what's happening in Jinja, where Jinja factory also deposed 20 Chinese workers amid losses, and also the protests also in there. Now that's where with this, the management of Skyfat Tannery Company Limited, also in local village, Old Bomber Ward, Ginger South, that's in Ginger South Division. We did see also about 20 Chinese nationals have been deported. That is only after 19 years after the plant failed to find local and foreign market for its products. So in there now, the group was largely started with the heading departments in the factory and also sourcing markets for the items produced solely but have failed to hit the target, leading to the laying off of over 100 workers in June 2024 without payments. And subsequently, some of also the retrenched workers stormed the factory on also September 28th, demanding also for their 3 months arrears, but they were also denied access to the factory by the management. And that's what exactly happened in there. And this prompted them to contract the Office of the Resident City Commissioner, who joined them in their march. That's the factory. And the company's managing director, Mr. Sung Jang, in an interview later cited also the poor management for the laying off and deportation of the 20 Chinese nationals, and that is where they have also been let go. Now, Ginger City Council Labour Officer Mr. Joshua Bogole said that his office had also received complaints from the workers who were also laid off without being paid their 3-month arrears, and citing the law that Mr. Bogole said any institution solely or company intending to lay off 50 workers and above must notify his office and the Ministry of Labour and Social Development, which he also which the management of Skyford had not done. So it means this also have to be paid. And Mr. Bagole also further noted that many factories in Jinja are not also following the guidelines given them also to promote good working environment, and his team will therefore start issuing tough punishments to factories which are totally abiding by also the concerns. And now Ms. Chris Singoma, the company's operations manager, said they are not also going to recall the workers who were laid off also, but they will work also the modality of paying their 3-month salary arrears. So I think that is where it was also very much important for these people to get their monies. Now, according to him, some workers have also served for over 17 years with various departments and gained experience with the new management, which says also they have opportunities of taking also positions left by the deported Chinese as long as they can also write a report in English. And that is where we are going to be seeing that. And to summarize the entire discussions, I really want to say, as we get moving on, we still have a lot of stories happening right regionally and also nationally, as we are seeing a lot of stories also happening at the international scene in there. And that is one thing where we also need to summarize our discussions with. But we hope at the end of the day, people also have also made the mentality of also working also towards changing the livelihoods in there. And that's where we're going to be leaving the discussion aside and now looking at what's happening at the international stories. We are seeing in Israel, and we're also seeing stories happening right across borders in neighboring countries. I really want to say there's a lot more that's happening. And now to also start off with the discussion, where we are seeing also this is happening in Israel, where Israel faces what we call vast destruction to infrastructure if it responds. And this is also another story we are seeing coming from Al Jazeera, where Iran's armed forces have also been warned against any also retaliatory attacks by Israel or its allies. And in a statement also cried by Iranian state media, Iran's army also threatened to cause vast destruction to Israel's infrastructure in the event of also response in there, but they have been warned currently not to also engage in that. And if you look at also what's happening within the Israel, also the Iran war in there today, you realize a lot more is happening, where property are being destroyed, where people are dying. And I want to show you that the war is still continuing on. But what exactly can be done to stop this war? The Palestine and Gaza area, really there's a lot more that's happening in that stretch in there, but how can we ensure an end to that also the war in there is what somebody out there could be interested in wanting to know. And I hope at the end of the day, people will definitely also know what is exactly happening in there. But we are still following up on to see how that will be ending, because if you look at that side, there's really a lot more that needs to be done, and we have to solely pray for our brothers and sisters who are in that area, which is solely war-stricken in there. And that is where we have to solely honor the peace in this country, and we hope that it does not solely go bad in there. And that is where we are expecting to solely see our lives also be improved as we are talking about other issues. And definitely our sources of income also must be improved, and that is solely where we will be able to solely see we avoid also seeing certain issues. And that's one thing at the end of the day that would be quite well. And Israel also says Israel has fired at Israel in response to assassinations is another story we are seeing, and we hope all this will be coming to pass, because if you look at what's happening in that side, definitely there's really a lot more that also is still happening in there. But how can this be able to end is another story also somebody also may be interested in, and that's where we're going to be leaving that discussion aside. And now to finalize our entire discussions with what's happening in the world of sports, I want to show you there's much more that also is happening in there, and definitely we have to understand what is happening. And the regional leagues are planning to reset, and we are just counting down the days, as this week also we are going to be seeing the return of the big league, and in Arua City we are going to be seeing it starting off with a derby between Ondobraga Football Club and the Black Angels at Ababet Greenlight Stadium. And more details of that game also will be coming through on the Wishu Time with Owen Ezaga and Nida Suzy. And how are they forgetting and also warming up is how we also need to interest ourselves in, and I will be following up on to see how the members of the public are preparing for this game in there. And now leaving that aside, in the Startimes Uganda Premier League, there are games also moving on, and today we shall be seeing a game on card that's between Bull Football Club and Mbarara City, which is also another huge game which we are going to be following up on today, and to see how this game also will be going on. And yesterday we also had games where we did see KCA Football Club beating Bright Stars by 1-0, and UPDF also went on to beat Wakiso Giants by 1-0, and these are the games that we did see happening in there yesterday, and that means KCA moves to the top of the log with 10 points as NEC Football Club comes on in the second place with 9 points, and UPDF also comes in there, and that's only where we're seeing them with 7 points. And Wakiso Giants is in the 4th place, and that's how our position is standing, and that's where we are still following up on. And Wakiso Giants comes in the 4th place, as Sports Club Villa is in the 5th place with 6 points, and in the bottom we are seeing Mbarara City Football Club lying down there with also only 3 points, as Bright Stars is in the second last position with 2 points, and Lugazi Football Club, new entrants to Southern Uganda Premier League, are still lying on the bottom with 0 points. And that is how we are seeing also that happening in there. We are going to be following up on to see how these games will be ending. And last night we also had games, and remember the European nights are back. And I want to show you that many people also already have been following up on these games and to see how these games are going on. And yesterday we had games between also the Arsenal Football Club and Paris Saint-Germain, and the game ended 2-0, and that's not also the only game. We're able to see Arsenal goals being scored by Bukayo Saka and Kai Havertz, and that is only where we did see also that going on, and that means Arsenal is starting this season on a quite good note also in here. And Barcelona did go on to beat Young Boys by 5-0. Bayer Leverkusen did beat AC Milan by 1-0. Borussia Dortmund was able to wash Celtic United by 7-0. Inter Milan also did go on to beat FC Skavena by 4-0, and these are some of the games that we did see happening in there. And tonight we also going to be seeing games still returning back, and we shall be seeing Girona taking on Feyenoord, and Shakhtar Donetsk will be taking on Atalanta, as Aston Villa will be playing against Bayern Munich, another huge game in there, and Benfica will be playing, that's Atletico also Madrid. Dynamo Zagreb will be playing against Monaco. Lille will be taking on Real Madrid, as Liverpool will be taking on Bologna. RB Leipzig will be taking on Juventus, and Sturm Graz will be playing, that's Club Brugge, and these are some of the games that will be going on tonight. And more details of what's happening in the world of sports, of course, will be returning through with Owen Ezaga and Linda Suzy, who will be here to also let you know of what's happening in the world of sports. And with that, we come to the end of today's discussions, as I want to pave way officially for the Aeolas News team to come through and let you know of what's happening in the world of Lugara. And for those who speak Lugara, and yale mia ikini fete Emmanuel Lemure lady Aeolas tia kuarse ma parwa sani amana medika savlersi ma imira area tezoni amana medika dusi.